Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today, my guest is Rachel B. Lee. Rachel is a fearless lady boss. After receiving her MBA from the University of Texas, Austin McCombs School of Business, she entered the technology industry at Microsoft. Rachel achieved over 1 billion impressions, yes, billion with a B, in 2017 as the social lead for Microsoft Inspire, and won the Speaker Excellence Award in 2018 for her session on modern selling and LinkedIn. She has now left corporate to be co-owner and CMO of StandOut Authority, helping people create their personal brands, grow their influence, and drive new opportunities through real human connections and the power of LinkedIn. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Katie. Great to be here.
Now, Rachel, you and I did get the opportunity to meet on a good old Clubhouse. We were talking about Clubhouse earlier, and I've had the opportunity to hear you speak a lot about LinkedIn and personal branding. So those are the two topics that we're going to dive deep into today. But before we start talking about that, I want to hear a little bit about you in your corporate world, because it sounds like it was a pretty cushy job, and to leave it, that had to be intimidating.
Absolutely. You know, I am that overachiever. I'm that ambitious lady boss. Yes, I identify as a lady, and I love being a strong woman in the business world. And I've always, my whole life has been, what's next, right? If I've never done an MBA, nobody in my family has, like maybe I should explore that, right? You put it in my head, I go after it. And that's kind of how I entered into getting an MBA. I knew I wanted to work on corporate brands. For me, marketing, the reason why I love marketing, I've always been doing marketing at business, undergrad, everything, is because it's about people. It's really about how do you understand a person and find a way to connect with them through your product or service, right? I mean, and that's really what branding is about. And so, you know, my whole life has been centered around, well, am I going to climb the ladder and be a C-level? I always have had the entrepreneurial bug in me. My grandfather started his own accounting business management firm. My dad took that over. So always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And what happened for me was that as I achieved the MBA and I achieved the big cushy job at Microsoft and then Gartner, which is a $4 billion, $5 billion company in IT research and consulting, is that I didn't feel purposeful and passionate. It wasn't that I didn't love the idea of what we were doing or the people that I was around, although in some places the people were better than others and teams. I felt like for me, Rachel B. Lee, that my purpose was much more than being part of a corporate dynamic that was not in touch with the customer as much. I wasn't face to face. And I really just had that sinking feeling in my stomach, Katie. And I knew, I was like, okay, either we keep going, we climb the corporate ladder. And they said to me, you have the capability to rise, keep going up, promotion, or do I leave and start my own thing? And after really doing the deep inner work, which personal branding is all about inner work, realize that the way that I can serve others and share my authentic voice was not going to be inside of a corporate environment. And I had to leave and take that entrepreneurship journey. And I had to do it like now. I didn't think it would happen as quickly as it did as soon as I set those intentions 1 year ago today. 1 year ago, I started to think I'm leaving corporate. There's something bigger for my life. And I was manifesting and setting that intention. Within 5 months, my last day at Gartner happened.
Oh, man.
And so, I think that everybody's story is different. For me, my design as a human, I just, no matter what money, what opportunity, job, that purpose and that passion is so important into why I'm here on this planet. And I believe that everybody feels that way. And most people are really unhappy in their jobs and unhappy right now and leaving all these jobs because they don't feel an emotional connection, right? So entrepreneurship and working with my husband, who is a 20 plus year entrepreneur, really has allowed me to expand and that anything is possible and create and really be in touch with humans in a one-on-one basis and support people in building their voice and being heard and being seen.
Wow, Rachel, I love that you said too that you've always had that entrepreneur bug inside you, but didn't really realize it. And I'm the exact same way. I went to college, I went into radio, I then went into marketing and everything. Obviously, I mean, I had my dream job. I had my dream job 3 times but nothing has fulfilled me as much as being an entrepreneur. And looking back, I was like, well, of course I'm an entrepreneur. You know, my dad had his own business and, you know, I was creating my own business when I was like 10. I was making art and, you know, trying to sell it on the street corner instead of lemonade. I was selling art. But I mean, like I think some of us just have that entrepreneur spirit within us. And we always hear, you have to go to college. You have to get this job. What do you want to be when you grow up? And not very many people say, I want to start my own business. And it's more, I think it's becoming more common where you can do anything. You know, if you want to do this, sure, you can. Whereas not as many people are saying like, oh, well, you need to go to school and become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. If you want to start your own business, I think that a lot more children are being raised to kind of think outside the box. With being an entrepreneur. Now, you mentioned your husband, Joshua B. Lee. He is the co-owner of StandOut Authority. Just tell us a little bit about what StandOut Authority is.
Yeah. So Josh is he started StandOut Authority several years ago. It was one of the several companies he owned. His 20 plus years really started in online advertising. He was at the cusp when online advertising started, working with MySpace and big companies doing, you know, arbitrage, buying, selling, making a shit ton of money. We love to curse on this. I won't curse so much.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. And he realized that it wasn't fulfilling, right? Just ad spend and really monetizing wasn't fulfilling for him. And StandOut Authority became what it is today, which is really all about being human online again. And we are behind the thought leaders, some of the best C-level executives, business owners, entrepreneurs. We're behind them, leading their executive communication, leading their voice, their personal brand, and bringing that perspective, that thought leadership to market on LinkedIn. And we do that literally on a one-on-one basis with top level executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, and then we also do training. So, you know, we met on Clubhouse. That's a sort of top of the funnel awareness building platform for Josh and I to really bring awareness and to train people on what does it mean to position yourself, to have a position in the market, create that narrative, and then actually tactfully do it on LinkedIn. We think that LinkedIn is the best platform and vehicle for a professional business conversation to grow opportunities where the real money, the biggest, best decision makers are, that's on LinkedIn. You know, that this is the place where the money is at. And so that's where our focus has been. We're working with the LinkedIn Creator Program and really staying in close lock with where the platform is going, because it is going in a place that serves people like you and I a lot more, and not just a place where you put your resume and you get hired. Which it is all of that too. I work with students still. I work with students at the University of Texas McCombs School of Business still, and MS students, and that's a whole other conversation, right? How do you use it to get a job, to get promoted? So there's still a lot of it's all about that as well. And now it's also become a creator platform.
Well, and Rachel, you brought up so many good points here, and I didn't want to interject, but the very first thing I want to talk about is that you said is not just a place for you to go and find a job and put your resume. And I think that people still think that with LinkedIn. It's like, oh, my husband, one of them, I'm like, hey, let's get you going on LinkedIn. He's like, hi, I don't need a new job. I'm like, well, no, you need to have that awareness. And so I think that a lot of people, again, still think that it is just that online resume, or if you're looking for a job, that's what you do, is you just put it there, and they couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, couldn't be more wrong. LinkedIn is 18, 19 years old at this point. It has 4 core business units. One of them is around recruiting, which is 50, 60% of the business and really how it started, but marketing solutions, sales solutions, and learning. So just, when Josh and I talk about LinkedIn, we talk about this in a very business-minded, smart sense. I worked at Microsoft. I was at Microsoft when the acquisition came through. $26 billion, Microsoft acquired LinkedIn. Most people don't even realize that. So what are you going to bet on? I'm pretty sure Microsoft is, if it's not the top 3, I need to look at the, Fortune 500, but it is outpacing. It's like Amazon, Google, all of the tech companies sort of battling each other out in the technology cloud market. I say all of that because LinkedIn is now part of Microsoft. So that creates a lot of new and interesting opportunities in terms of integrations, productivity, all of that, and really about empowering. LinkedIn is about empowering the global workforce. Microsoft is empowering every person on the planet to achieve more. So when I think about just the overall, like, where are you going to bet, right? Like, where do I want to spend my time? I think about, wow, there's a huge vision behind LinkedIn with Microsoft. And yes, recruiting, yes, it is a place to put your resume, but I'm sorry, like, if you are looking for jobs in 2022 and you think that your resume is going to get you in, good luck, kiddo. Like, that is not how recruiting is happening right now. Recruiting, the resume is like the submission, and the hiring managers doing their quick scan with the computers to see if you've hit the mark. The next piece of that is, how is this person showing up on LinkedIn? They're looking at, I've been hiring. I've been hired in corporate, and I've been a hiring manager in corporate. And I continue to coach and work with the students who are in the recruiting process, the MBAs. And so it is so much about, how are you presenting yourself? Your resume really does nothing, but your LinkedIn profile can actually show who this person is. I can learn beyond what she's done. I can learn why she's done it. And I can look into the content that she's producing to help really build out that story. So the other thing I want to just bring up, Katie, because I know I'm on my soapbox now, is most people don't realize with LinkedIn that it is highly Google indexed. So from an SEO perspective, which means organic search, I know there's a lot of people listening that are smart and know digital marketing. A lot don't even know what SEO means. When you go onto Google, what shows up when you click on the whatever personal branding expert? Is Rachel going to show up? Is Katie going to show up? Right? It is 100% optimized LinkedIn for Google. So what that means is, and they actually this summer started to index posts. So not only are your articles and newsletters, but your posts are now indexable on Google. So I'm getting a lot of juice out of what I put on LinkedIn, not just for the people that are on LinkedIn, but for the people that are searching on Google. And let's be honest, everybody's searching on Google. And we've actually seen some really interesting case studies. David Tutera, what is Tutera? Yeah, Tahara. He literally took a blog that was on his website, took the same blog, put it on an article on LinkedIn. He started to show up number 1 on the Google search. So for you smart marketing folks, I think about, how do I get the most out of my content and my reach? It's on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that too, one of the things that I've learned is if someone says, okay, I'll be on social media, Katie, and then they're on Instagram, that is fantastic. And then they decide, okay, I'm going to add on Facebook too. Okay. I always try to recommend to diversify away from just going all in on Mark Zuckerberg or all in on Microsoft. So if you are only going to be on one social media platform or two social media platforms, it makes sense to diversify. LinkedIn and Instagram, I think one of the best places for organic search still are those two platforms. I want to touch on too, Rachel, what if somebody is a business owner, or I know you work with a lot of executives and managers, but as a business owner, why would they want to have a strong presence, a strong personal brand over on LinkedIn or on any social media platform? Why do they want to have a personal brand? Shouldn't they be focusing on their business?
You mean the company brand?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I've run polls on this and everybody says, I ask people, what do you think? Because I do social listening. Do you focus on company brand or personal brand? 70-30 personal brand, right? And I'm talking about the leading experts, branding people at companies like Microsoft, okay, who are running the brands. And if they had to choose, they'd choose the personal brand. You know why? Because we're in a massive transformation right now. Our world has drastically changed and will continue to, because we are in the digital revolution. And the pace of change, what we've experienced in the last 20 years in terms of innovation, technology, forget like humanity and what, COVID and all that is like unspeakable, right? And so we are writing the story now for the next 40 years, right? And so what that means is that people are now actually at the top of the list for who's controlling everything. We're going to talk about the creator economy in a few weeks when we have our, community call, right? Like this is where it's going, because people now are creating content like cray cray. They want to own their content. They want to own their IP. They want to own their own ideas, and they want to make money off of it. They don't want, when you think about it, like here we are on Clubhouse and LinkedIn, all these Instagram, we don't own shit.
No,
we don't get paid for my content. Remember, we are the user. We are the user, which means they get to use and abuse us. They make money off of us. LinkedIn a little bit less so because it's products, but Facebook and Instagram, they're making money off of your ad spend, your data. It's just fact. So because of that, people have now become at the vocal point in every company. Or if you're a business owner, I want to talk to you. I want to know why you created that company. I want to know why I should buy from you, CEO, you entrepreneur. I don't care if your business is 5 people, 1 people, or 500 people. We want to know who's working there. We want to know who's leading the company and what do you have to say? That is what is going to attract me to actually purchase. I'm doing an article right now on thought leadership. And there's been studies that have done by LinkedIn, Edelman, et cetera. They saw that huge increase in purchasing when business decision makers because of the content they're seeing from the thought leaders in different companies. It's changed. Things have changed. This isn't 20 years ago or even 50 years ago, right? Like now we humans, while we're being really controlled, we're sort of also breaking free. And I think that just means that no matter what, you have a brand, you have a personal brand, and it's your opportunity to really use it, because this whole authenticity thing that people keep talking about, the only way something can be authentic is through a human voice.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. The opportunity to hear someone speak can move relationships at at lightning speed. And I feel like I said, before I hit record here, I said, Rachel, I can't believe this is the first time you and I are actually seeing each other. It feels like I'm just getting together with an old friend that I haven't talked to in a minute, but this is the first time that we've actually had a face-to-face conversation. And it's because of the power of voice and hearing someone speak. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are still like, well, there's a lot of people behind the business. There's a lot of people behind the brand, but you have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot to offer. And there's a reason why you decided to go down this path. And everyone loves to hear a story and they love to learn. And one thing that you have done in your career can help somebody go from step A to C or to D or F. They can help them skip the line a little bit by sharing your story and different thoughts and experiences that you have had. I know that a lot of people with the personal branding, they're like, oh, so wait, so I have to like go get pictures, or how do I even start like with a personal brand? What would you say if they're like, okay, Rachel, you're kind of convincing me that I need to start showing up and not just doing a whole bunch of business corporate branding. I need to start doing some personal brand. What would you say their first step should be?
Go on LinkedIn. Well, listen, I'll take Instagram too. Fine. We'll take the both of them. And the first thing is that you need to think about what do I want to say? What do I want to be known for? What am I really good at that I have a perspective that I can even create content, right? And you don't have to create that much content to look legit and trustworthy and attract people, right? Like, I think people get really stressed out, and I am one of those too. I'm like, oh, so much content, but like, it's okay. Like, you can post like a few times a week and be good enough, absolutely that headshot, right? And all of we won't get into visual identity because that's where I think people start getting overwhelmed. Yes, a headshot really starts is, what do you want to be known for? Where I start when I'm working with people, when I do my personal branding workshops, when people come and do training, our clients, to say, I break it down into 4 pieces so you can define what is your value proposition. So the same way in which I built company brand value propositions, which is you're really like why people should work with you, that's what it is, value proposition. I do that on a personal brand level. So I look at, what are your skills? What hard skills do you have? So when I'm working with people and they tell me I'm really gritty, I'm really resilient, that's subjective. That's not a hard skill. It's a great skill. It's a soft skill. But like, truly, when I'm building a personal brand, it must be credible and trustworthy. And so that, when it comes to a personal brand, is based off of your skills and your experiences. That's comparable to like the features and benefits of what service you're offering, right? So what are your skills? For instance, one of mine is communication. Thus, I'm here speaking. Right?
Might have something in common there, Rachel.
Yeah, you're Katie. Guess what? One of your skills is communication too. So, what are your skills? Who is your audience? This is a big one. I think that people, and you tell me, Katie, people will say, well, I want to attract this kind of person. I'm looking to attract millennial women that are moms and right? And then you look at them and they're not a mom, they're not a millennial, they're not a woman, right? They're right. And so when it comes to personal branding, your audience is who can relate to your background, your experience. And that doesn't mean looks like you necessarily, but it means you have shared experiences. Mm-hmm. So people are usually going after these aspirational clients and they're like, why won't they come to me? Well, you have no credibility. Mm-hmm. You don't have customer testimonials like that yet. So your target bullseye is going to be people that can truly relate to your background, your experiences, and that can buy from you, which means they trust you. to your audience, then what is your differentiation? Differentiation is the most important piece of branding, period. Because there's a lot of people doing the same thing. And so your differentiation when it comes to building your personal brand, when it comes to building your persona out there, is going to happen through what experiences have you had that are different than others? So for instance, Katie, you've been on TV, right?
Yeah. So I used to be a radio reporter.
Okay. Radio reporter. It's pretty great differentiator for you. I cannot say that I've been a radio reporter. We both can say we know personal branding, but I cannot say I've been a radio reporter. And I can say I have an MBA and I was in corporate. And I don't think you had a corporate job.
I did have a corporate job, but I don't have an MBA. Nope. I
don't have an MBA,
no.
Right? So some people will say, I speak 5 languages. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of times people actually don't realize they're different. I find this in particular with women. I find this a lot with working professionals. I find this a lot with people recruiting. They're like, I'm no different than anybody else. Well, languages you speak, you're first generation, you're born in a different country, sports you've played. I mean, there's all sorts of things that make you different so that your audience can relate to you. And lastly, what are you passionate about? And Katie, I think this is most important in building a personal brand because it's not just how people see you, it's how you see yourself. And we started this conversation about, leaving this cushion job to be an entrepreneur. It was because of this passion piece. It was because I didn't feel fulfilled, like you said, that fulfillment, that purpose, that passion. Many people can be passionate about the companies that they work for. That's great. Most companies need to figure out how they can get their people more passionate about what
they're doing.
That's a big problem. Most people don't give a shit about the companies, what they're doing. But that's my other soapbox. So what is your passion? And you can figure this out by really understanding what gives you energy. When are you lit up? What are people, when you ask people, what are my superpowers? That's where you start to understand. And I think some people are like, well, I'm really passionate about like cooking food. That might be the case. Are you going to make money off of that? Maybe. Maybe you are. Maybe the passion, if cooking food has nothing to do and you're like a finance kind of person, maybe you can use that cooking food passion to help tell your story, to help draw analogies, to help humanize you, right? So all of those 4 elements to me are where you start to think about, how do I want to position myself? And you create your personal brand statement, your value proposition. So for me, I help people and businesses find their voice, build their confidence, and grow their influence so they can change the world. And I do branding, and I talk about personal branding all the time. It took me a long time, though, to get there, Katie.
Oh, yeah. I think that's exactly what you're saying, Rachel. It's a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not special. There's really nothing different about me. But the way you broke it down, there's little things that make you unique. And it took, honestly, I was that same way. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, nothing really spectacular about me. But then once I started, well, yeah, I was a locker room reporter. It's pretty cool because it was back before a lot of women were in the locker room doing sports reporting. Oh yeah, well, I did get this. I did play collegiate softball. Like it was all these different things that I didn't realize that it was a different way to connect with someone until you start sharing your story and start speaking. And that all happens when you start embracing yourself as the brand and growing your personal brand.
Yeah. And I love what you just said, that you played collegiate softball. I didn't play collegiate softball, but I was super into softball varsity and played my whole 6 until 18. Right. And so immediately now we can have conversations around softball, and people will forget to put that on their LinkedIn profile. They'll forget to even put that in the resume, right? Where it says interests, things you like to do. I love that section of the resume. It's like my favorite part. Here's all the boring stuff. What do they like? But those pieces are often left out. And as we think about this humanity coming back, which it is. People want to connect with other people. People buy from other people. People hire from other people. Those little pieces of information that you totally don't realize matter. And in a social media world where you have to break through fast, it's those little tidbits in the visuals, in the copy, in the daily content that bring on one extra follower, one person, and one person. And it's an everyday process. And Josh and I say this a lot, like, if I can touch one person today, or whoever, I don't know how many people will listen to this. It could be 2 people, it could be 30,000. I have no idea. But if one person can walk away and say, I learned something, or she helped me, I'm like, then I'm good. I've served. I'm doing the right thing. One person, can I make a difference and touch them today? Then I fulfill my passion. I'm doing the right things.
And that's why I wanted you on the podcast here, Rachel, because that is the whole basis of my podcast. Like I've said before on the show here, if it was not for people giving me the gift of their time and just sharing, this is the mistake I made, or this is what's helped me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that is entirely the whole basis of the show, to help people learn and continue growing. I can't thank you enough for coming on today. And like I said, it does feel great to actually see you and have a conversation, because we've spoken together so many times, and it is just like connecting with an old friend again. Before we finish up, is there anything I didn't ask about during today's discussion that you think is important to share, important for people to walk away with?
I mean, we just scratched the surface, and I think what matters is that you realize that you matter. And that if there's any time to start putting yourself out there and getting a little uncomfortable, now is the time. And that all of us have started from nothing. And I don't even consider myself like that, anything really. And every day I keep putting myself out there, more opportunity comes. The more that I am very in touch with who I am, that's why this work for me, the reason why I left corporate, the reason why I do personal branding, it's the way it's coined, is because ultimately it's about people fulfilling their purpose and serving others. And we need so much of that right now. We need people to stand for others. We need people to light up other people's souls. We need people to be honest. We need people to care. Right? And that, if you come from a place of that, everything is possible and anything is possible. And the personal branding work will get you there, right? It will get you there. We'll help firm it up. And then of course, LinkedIn is where we believe so much passion. We have so much passion about. If you're listening, please connect with me. The Rachel B. Lee on Instagram, everywhere. Rachel B. Lee on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. We have an awesome workshop coming up. We're totally changing the game this year with Josh and I, providing more free opportunities and more intimate opportunities. So we would love to just meet you, and LinkedIn is where it's at. So get your butt on there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think LinkedIn is kind of, I don't know why it feels like a lot of people just kind of write it off, but it is one of my favorite social platforms. And I do follow you, and you do give a ton of free advice and tips, and you go live on there. So again, if you are not connected with Rachel on LinkedIn, check her out, Rachel B. Lee. All of her contact information will be in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Rachel, again, thank you again so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.